Hello and welcome to Matcha Mornings, part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network. I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith, and I'm excited to dive deep on topics around holistic health, the power of food, hormone health, how the practices of yoga can impact our health and well-being, and much more. So grab your cup of tea, settle in, and let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Matcha Mornings podcast. I am super excited that you're joining me here today for this episode of the show. And today on the podcast, we have a really fun episode. I am talking with Kristine Kelly from Plant Based Daily and Kristine's Beauty Lab. And Kristine is a plant-based chef who specializes in using plants, tonics, elixirs, adaptogens to help people heal in their bodies. And so on this episode of the show, we dive into Kristine's health and wellness journey, what inspired her to become plant-based, and then how she has been able to create her businesses, Plant Based Daily, Kristine's Beauty Lab. And then we also talk about how we can start incorporating more plants, tonics, elixirs, and adaptogens into our daily lives. And these things are all my jam. I love all of this type of stuff. And it is actually really fun to start diving into the world of elixirs and adaptogens and just seeing how you can get more fruits and veggies into your day-to-day life. So I hope that you enjoy this episode as much as I did. And without further ado, here is Kristine. Welcome to the podcast today, Kristine. I'm really excited to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this conversation. And my first question for you is, where are you joining me from today?
So I'm joining you today from beautiful St. Barth here in the Caribbean.
Oh, that's amazing. How long have you been there for?
Wow, I've been in St. Barth about 6 years now, and I got engaged here and fell in love with the island. And I haven't looked back since we moved here. It's been an adventure. I love it here.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. I'm in Mexico right now, so I love sunshine and tropical weather and all that good stuff. So might have to pick your brain on St. Bart's after we get off this call. And we're not talking about health and wellness, but I'll stay focused on my other love. I do love to travel, but I'll stay focused on my passion for health and wellness and holistic health specifically. And I'd love to hear a little bit about your health and wellness journey and just what that's looked like for you over the last years of your life.
Yes. So I started my wellness journey about 15 years ago when I lived in Santa Monica. I lived right on Ocean Avenue by the 3rd Street Farmers Market. And I remember the first time I went there, I was just in complete awe. The produce looked so exotic, coming from Virginia, where we didn't have quite as many farms growing up, but at least they weren't walking distance like this one. And I love the farmers. They were just so passionate about education and all the different goodies that they had. And I love the taste so much. I just wasn't sure how to prepare these amazing ingredients. So I discovered this beautiful cafe in Venice Beach called Cafe Gratitude. And that was my first plant-based experience. At that cafe, I was just blown away by how incredible the food was, the flavors. It was just super vibrant. And I didn't miss any of the animal proteins or anything. They were so creative with their sauces, with using different seeds and nuts and different plants, using dehydration methods, fermentation. So, I mean, the dishes had so much vibrancy and texture to it and a little bit of spice. Like, it was well balanced flavor wise. And so I was just curious about taking it a step further. And I discovered Matthew Kenny, that he had a culinary school just a few blocks from this cafe, actually. So I enrolled, and I learned so much from Matthew Kenny, and he's really one of my greatest mentors. He might actually be coming to the island soon, which is exciting. I just talked to him, but and then I really just discovered a lot about plant-based cuisine and also just about wellness in my travels, mostly in Asia, I learned so much just from these travels, mainly in Japan. I was in Japan. Gosh, I've been there maybe 5 or 6 times, but so it all started in Santa Monica, I would say.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that journey. And I share your love of travel. As I mentioned before, Japan's one of my favorite places in the world. I can't wait to go back there, hopefully, sometime soon. And it's really amazing to hear
Yes.
that you had this experience of going to this restaurant and experiencing plant-based food and then just kind of going from there. And had you how were you eating before you discovered plant-based? Like, were you just eating kind of like a standard American diet, or were you kind of already eating like on the healthy side of the standard American diet, or what was that transition like for you, like becoming plant-based?
That's a great question. So the transition, I really grew up eating just standard Western diet, meat and potatoes, just really basic. And it's funny, I would usually gravitate towards vegetables even growing up. Like, I would really pick at the meat, whereas other kids maybe would pick at vegetables in my neighborhood. And I was fortunate though, because one of my best friends, she was Korean, and I just remember going to her home after school, and her grandmother would make kimchi from scratch. So I guess I was 6 or 7 years old, and at that age I was introduced to kimchi, and it became one of my favorite snacks, and it's so healthy. And so I learned to just love those flavors at that age. And I also just loved watching her prepare the dish, from scratch, and going out in the garden. So anyhow, yeah, so the transition in college, yeah. And graduating, I would work and go to school. So I would just eat things quickly, a lot of processed foods, some fast food. So I would not say I was a healthy eater growing up. I did start to eat healthier when I got into modeling. I was doing some modeling when I lived in Los Angeles. And that was the one thing that bothered me. Like, I felt like I was taking care of my body, skincare, and everything else on the beauty end, except for the food. I was just eating out a lot. Really, I wasn't cooking the food from scratch, and it bothered me. I thought, this is the one thing I'm missing, and I just felt like, okay, I need to fill in this gap somehow. So when I started learning how to eat plant-based, initially I was doing it all wrong. I was eating so many nuts, and like tons of nuts, and some of my friends were too, and we actually gained a little bit of weight by doing it improperly, because there's also quite a bit of processed plant-based food, and it looks so beautiful in the markets, the marketing, the packaging. So we got so once I started to learn more about nutrition, once I took like a culinary nutrition course through Matthew Kenny's culinary program, I really started to see, okay, wow, this is a whole other process. So I did like a 30-day challenge with my friend, just to see, like, okay, can we do a full month of plant-based? Let's see how this feels. And it was nice doing it with a friend, because my friend Leslie and I, we were comparing what we would eat and share recipes with each other. And also it just became something social we would do together and invite friends. And one thing we noticed, we just felt really, really vibrant. I remember friends would say, wow, your eyes, the whites of your eyes, it's so bright, like they're glowing, like your skin's glowing. And this was after, I would say, a week of detox, where the skin was congested, and God, it looked like I was sick almost. Like, you kind of went through a period of a detox, really, where the body was just cleansing itself and removing toxins, especially with all the raw foods I was consuming, because a lot of the nutrients, especially like for vitamin C, in those orange and red colored fruits and vegetables, they're sensitive to heat. So I would consume a lot of those raw, and gosh, my body felt so amazing just after, going through that detox process. And I also did a retreat in Costa Rica where we learned a little bit more about that with Chef Kate Magic. She's really the one that brought superfoods to Europe, and she's pretty much almost 100% raw foodist. I think she eats almost everything raw. So I really learned a lot about her, and just nutrition as well, because she's a mother as well. And the process was not difficult, because really, if anything, it was more exciting to me just to discover all of these different plants that I wasn't aware of before, and introduce them to my body. And my body was just really reacting well to it. I haven't looked back.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so how long has it been that you've been entirely plant-based?
It's been, I would say when I was pregnant, I did crave things that were not plant-based, like eggs, for example. I did a little bit of that. So I would say there was a little bit of a gap when I was pregnant. And I think also it's important, especially going through pregnancy, to listen to your body and what it needs. So that's important. I would say that it's been, for the most part of the 15 years, the only time is when I travel. I do like to try other traditional dishes, like in Okinawa, for example, one of the blue zone areas, known for longevity. I really wanted to try some of their traditional dishes, and even some of the dishes, like they'll put a little bit of nampla, which is fish sauce. So, and if you didn't know what that was, you just wouldn't know. But I would research, okay, well, what is this ingredient? But then I would just try to understand how they would get the umami and when I come home, I would, okay, let me try and duplicate this, but in a plant-based way. So I could use different mushrooms and different seaweeds to create like a plant-based dashi with that umami feel to it. So yeah, I would say the greater part of the 15 years. So.
Yeah. I'm also a big fan of listening to your body. And I think especially during pregnancy, that's an important time. If your body's craving something that you don't normally eat, it might be your body telling you that something in that is necessary for the growth of the fetus and for the baby and that type of thing. So I think it's great that you listen to that. And then also, this has actually been one of the things. I was vegetarian for a couple of years, and I was traveling actually through Asia at that time. And I'm sure that from being plant-based, it can often be very hard to be vegan or vegetarian in a lot of Asian countries, just because their food traditionally has a lot of sauces that are made from, things like fish or meat, and they eat a lot of meat in general. And the idea of not eating meat is not really like a big part of their culture. And I kind of struggled during that period of I'm choosing not to eat meat and I want to stick to that. But then also okay, I'm in this other culture, and I feel like I should be trying this other food and stuff like that. And so I was kind of mostly vegetarian, but somewhat pescatarian. So I did eat fish and stuff, especially when I was in places like Japan, because the fish is amazing there and whatnot. But yes. I think it is really interesting to have kind of this this lifestyle that you choose to live in this way that you choose to eat, but then be able to be a little bit flexible with it, I guess you can say.
Yes, I feel like it doesn't have to be so black and white. Sometimes we can get really caught up on, it's got to be this way and only this way. And then there's really not a lot of flexibility, and it's hard to be 100% open when you are experiencing other new environments and other cultures. And I think it's important to learn from the other cultures and traditions, especially if they've been around for a long time, and just take elements of the cultures and adapt it to your own lifestyle. But at least being open to that in the beginning, I think it makes a big difference. And then you're able to connect with others there that way. And some of my best friendships, it's really just from these beautiful travels, and I love staying in touch. It's amazing that we can just stay in touch like we're doing Zoom or however.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And I think one thing, regardless of, who's listening and what they kind of feel about different forms of eating, that I think we can all agree on is that, more of us or most of us could benefit from eating more plants in our lives. I know that's something I'm consistently like, okay, more fruits and veggies, more herbs. That's always something that I'm trying to keep kind of on the top of my mind. And I'm curious, I know you work with people and I want to talk about your business in a little bit, but I'm curious, like how, for people listening, like how can we start incorporating more plants? Like even if somebody's not quite ready for the jump right to plant-based, like how do we start getting more plants and adaptogens and all this good stuff into our lives?
Yes. So incorporating more plant food and adaptogens. Well, first of all, adaptogens. What are adaptogens? Like we hear that word and we may not know exactly what that means. So adaptogens, they're also known as tonic herbs, and they help the body restore balance and adapt to stress. So they work by increasing the body's resistance to multiple stressors, which could include physical, chemical, emotional, or environmental stress. And they basically help to regain homeostasis, so the state of equilibrium, through their regenerative properties, and they help harmonize the body and spirit. They're pretty amazing. I would say like the primary ones, like a good way to like even just to start incorporating adaptogens are to make tonics, to make like warm teas, a tea to have in the morning after your lemon water. And lemon water is a good way to start your day if you don't do it already. Just like a warm water with some lemon, maybe a little cayenne if you're okay with spice. And it just helps to recirculate your liver and wake it up and start your day. But then if you follow that with a tea with some different adaptogens, so some of the main adaptogens, like they're herbs that are supported by most of the scientific research that Dr. Israel Breckman, he's sometimes referred to as the father of the adaptogens. Those would include ashwagandha. If you're not familiar with that one, that promotes youth and longevity. It can also strengthen bone marrow, muscles. It can heighten intellectual capabilities. Just helps keep you looking and feeling youthful. So it's like a nice beauty tonic as well. So that one's nice. Sometimes I'll also make like a raw chocolate and I'll put some of the ashwagandha in it. It just brings some added bliss into your life as well. So and it pairs nice with cacao. So yeah, if you like that chocolatey flavor, you could pair that with a little bit of cacao in a tonic, maybe with some ginger. And if you do a sweetener, maybe something gentle like a coconut nectar or a little bit of maple. So that one's nice. Cordyceps, that's a good one. I use often for clients. It's nice to treat like a deficient yin and yang of the kidneys, which could be caused by too much physical exertion or just like really excessive. Like maybe you did a super long hike, or so it can be used to help with that. And also I like to refer to that as like a Superman or Superwoman adaptogen, because it helps you take over that busy day that you have ahead of you. So that's a good one. And you may be familiar with ginseng. There's the American and the Asian ginseng. So that one is often used in traditional Chinese medicine to help protect the body against disease. It's been used ceremoniously for the recovery of qing, which is your vital energy source. And it could also be used to help alleviate fatigue. So that one's really energizing. But without the effects of caffeine. Like for me, I'm caffeine sensitive. So if I had coffee, I would get like the shakes and it would be too much for me. But with the ginseng, it's not going to make me hyper. It's just going to help enhance my energy level. So then there's also Siberian ginseng, which is referred to as eleuthero. It's very grounding and amazing for mental clarity. It's also immune boosting. It can also be used as a spleen and chi tonic in traditional Chinese medicine. So the spleen has the ability to extract nutrients from food and beverages to help make it bioavailable to your body. That one's great. You could just do a simple tea with holy basil. It's also referred to as tulsi. That one pairs really well with hibiscus. Like if you're just doing a nice tea with hibiscus, and then you get purplish hue tea. It's a very calming herb that helps your body and your mind relax. It has antidepressant properties. It can be used to relieve brain fog, poor memory, if you had ADD, or it can also help aid in recovery of any type of head trauma. There's also licorice. That's a great one. It's antiviral, anti-inflammatory. It's also known as a demulcent herb. So it has like a moistening effect. If you are experiencing a lot of dryness, maybe you have a dry throat or like dry lips or something, it helps to moisten, which is also great for your kidneys. Hydration is super important. And actually one of my clients was asking about kidneys recently. So I'm adding in a lot of licorice for her. It also helps protect your liver, and it's also hormonal balancing, which is important. So that's a great one. And I'll just do a few more, just like main ones that are, so you have options. Rhodiola is great. It's a brain protective herb, and that one is known to stimulate your nervous system. It can improve blood circulation. It can provide energy. It also can help decrease depression, and it also can enhance your work performance. And then you may have heard of schisandra, which is it's known as the 5 flavor berry. It's got a little bit of sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and pungent flavors. That one is anti-inflammatory. It's an immune tonic, and it's said to benefit one of the 5 yin organs. So it could be the liver, your kidney, your heart, your lungs, or your spleen. And then finally, shilajit. That's known as like the invincible rock, like the Himalayas. It's anti-inflammatory. It can improve your general physical and mental strength, and it can also promote healing if you've had any sort of sports injury. It can also support your immune system, which is great. So yeah, I would start maybe with alternating with some of these different adaptogens in a form of a tea to start with. You can also put them in your soups. That's a great way to get a lot of vegetables into your day. I have a soup every day. It's one of those things I have every single day, as well as a salad. I have that almost every day, whether it's a seaweed salad. I just made one of those today with different types of seaweed. Because often in the Western diet, we don't see a lot of seaweed, maybe an occasional miso soup or something, but you can even throw it into any ordinary soup. Like I often do one with greens. My son loves a green soup, and that's probably the only way I can get him to eat greens. So I pack in so many greens into the soup, usually broccoli or asparagus, just anything in the greens aisle for produce. I just pack that in, and then I'll often throw in some kombu or wakame, some kind of seaweed into it. And he doesn't know it, but he's getting seaweed in his soup. And then sometimes instead of putting salt, I'll put miso into it or dulse flakes. So a soup is such a great way to get in different fruits and vegetables. And I like to try and get as many greens as possible. So that's a great way, obviously. And salads, they're not just yeah, I'm not talking iceberg salads. Those are the ones that
Caesar salad. I love a good Caesar salad. Don't get me wrong.
Right. There's a good one you can make though with, you can make, instead of the traditional dressing, you could use sunflower seeds. I know we talked a lot about going crazy with nuts, but now I would say I do more with seeds. I mean, I'll do nuts occasionally as a treat, but like sunflower seed, I use that as a base for the cashew or cashews occasionally, like just a little bit in there to make a dressing with like nutritional yeast. It adds this sort of cheese like flavor to it. So yeah, you can make your own out of seeds. That's really nice. And it's creamy and it feels like you're having the real thing. So no, the iceberg lettuce, I was joking because when I first moved to St. Bart's, that's pretty much all I could get at restaurants. If I said I wanted something plant-based, they would give me an iceberg lettuce salad.
Oh my gosh. So like,
yes,
I feel like that's
starving.
like, that's what people think about. Like, I feel like that's what people think about if they don't know about plant-based or veganism. Like they kind of just think like, oh, you just eat like iceberg lettuce. And it's like, no, there's actually so many things that aren't animal products that are so nutritious and so delicious.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, depending where you are, I mean, I just try and alter even the different leafy greens, try some that you're not used to and, add in some bitter ones, maybe some watercress, some dandelion greens. There's so many good ones. If you have a farmer's market, that's ideal. Here, everything comes in by boat, so we're at the mercy of what we can grow on the islands. But yes, I try to think of it as a number. Like if there's a number, you're like, how many different ones should I eat? Like I try and do between 30 to 40 different plants a week. And I know
Wow.
it might seem like a lot, but it's actually not. If you're just going to the market and you're just looking, like try and think in terms of color instead of what you're purchasing. And I try not to go in with a recipe in mind. I just go like to the farmer's market or the market with, okay, I'm going to get like the best possible ingredients and then just fruits and vegetables that maybe I'm not familiar with and then figure it out when I get home. And that's the best part. You just get to discover different plants that maybe you're not familiar with, and then you can grow to love it. Like I never thought I would like bitter melon or bitter gourd. I don't know if you've tasted that, but
I'm not sure if I have or not. I'm Canadian originally, so I feel like that's probably not something that grows in Canada. And I don't know if I've encountered it on my travels or not. What is it? What is it like?
It's big in Japan, especially Okinawa. Wow, I saw it everywhere there, and India as well. Even in the United States, there's quite a bit of bitter gourd. So it looks like a cucumber, but with wrinkly skin, like very textured outer skin. You'll know it if you've had it before, though.
Okay, maybe I haven't then.
Apparently, it grows in Guadalupe as well because I just saw it here from the farmers market. So that's something that it took me a while to get used to. I remember being in Japan, I was in Okinawa, and all these ladies, they were just drinking the juice of it, and they were like, "Oh, have some! It's wonderful!" And I remember my first sip, I really just swallowed it down and really struggled with it, but I ended up drinking it a bit. It just took me maybe an hour just to drink a small shot of it. But now I love it. Just because I learned how to cook with it and do different dishes with like misos and or even fermenting with it, and now I really like incorporating it into different dishes. But yeah, even with fermenting, I mean, you can throw in so many, like a confetti of different plants into a jar, and then you've got, a crunchy probiotic source that you can add like a spoonful to a dish or make pancakes with it. I make sourdough bread, so like I'll take some of the starter, make little pancakes. You can get really creative with it. You can. I do sauces with it. Yeah, it's endless. Like, especially if you have any artistic capabilities. Like I just treat the plate like a canvas. You try and look at it that way. And then, okay, I'm going to get all these beautiful plants and figure out a fun way to prepare something. And then, especially when you're making it for somebody, you just do it out of love, and it's almost always going to taste pretty amazing if you're doing it for someone special.
Yeah. I love that. And I can hear how passionate you are about like making this stuff. I have learned to like to cook, but I feel like I'm not quite in the like, yeah, I'll just buy some plants and like create something with it. I feel like that sounds like something that would go horribly wrong for me. My husband's a little bit more like that. Like he can kind of do like refrigerator stir fries and they always taste good, whereas like mine are very mediocre, but I'm learning and open to learning as well. And I just appreciate you going through all those different adaptogens and how we can make them into elixirs and just some tips for getting more plants in. I love the idea of getting, lots of plants in things like soups and smoothies. I feel like those are great ways to hide things that are very good for you, especially if you're not somebody that likes to sit down and eat a big salad or eat a big plate of veggies, because, some people aren't like that. Hey everyone, we're just taking a quick break from the show to talk about Energy Bits. Energy Bits are spirulina tablets made of one ingredient, algae. Nothing added, nothing subtracted, just 100% plant-based algae nutrition. No sugar, no caffeine, no gluten, no soy, no additives, no GMOs, no preservatives, no binders, nothing artificial. Just 100% algae, 100% green, 100% healthy, and 100% pure. Pure and simple, the way food should be. They have high protein, high beta carotene, high iron, high chlorophyll, high antioxidants, and over 40 plus vitamins, including the B vitamins. They have electrolytes, including magnesium, potassium, and are a great source of essential fatty acids. Honestly, I could go on and on and on about how great Energy Bits are for you, and that's why I've decided to partner with them. If you want to learn more about Energy Bits or order some yourself, you can head on over to energybits.com to learn more. Use the code WANDERBARN to get 20% off your order. Once again, that's energybits.com and use the code WANDERBARN for 20% off your order. All right, back to the episode. And one thing I'm curious about, because I know you mentioned before we started recording that you've been cooking for people on the island, and it sounds like you do a lot of work with people, introducing them to new things and cooking for them and that type of thing. What are some of the, I guess, like results that you see from people shifting their diets or eating more plants or using more adaptogens and elixirs and that type of thing?
That's a good one. So I've been cooking for a lot of different families lately, especially since COVID. And it's been really exciting just working with different families mostly and couples. And I love it because one of the husbands, he's surprising his wife with this plant-based dinner next weekend. And she's going to be so excited to have all this plant-based food. And anyhow, it's been really exciting just seeing how excited they get to eat. Because one of my clients, she said that she's just been working all the time and she never really got excited about eating. And she's like, wow, this is the first time I can't wait to see what meals you're bringing. And because they're just so colorful and it just feels good eating. Because I talked a little bit about mindfulness eating to them as well. So instead of just rushing into the meal as it's served, they now just take a moment to stop what they're doing. Like they'll set aside a time. I don't know if you're like in Canada, if you set aside a certain time of day, at least in the French way here, it's a French island where I live. Almost everybody, when it's 12 o'clock noon, 12 o'clock. Okay, boom. They'll stop whatever they're doing and then they'll have their lunchtime. Like it doesn't matter what they're doing. 12 o'clock, lunchtime. So at that moment, it's just a nice opportunity to put away all electronics and just really admire the food that's in front of you and just smell, just bring it up to your nose and just really smell the different flavors. And I like to close my eyes for this part and just try and think about the flavors without cheating, without looking. And then you start salivating and you're actually pre-digesting the food that way. So it's a great way to start pre-digesting just to get ready for it. And then, when you're about to take your first bite, you're just that much more appreciative. And then you just really, and then I also tell my clients, don't forget to chew. I joke with my son, like, your stomach doesn't have teeth. Like, you need to really, really chew your food. So I tell them the same thing, and they laugh, but then they realize, oh, wow, like I haven't been chewing my food. And then one of them was telling me, wow, it makes such a difference. Like I'm getting full faster. Like I'm seeing the meal, it's pretty nutrient dense. So like I really need to chew it well. And she's like, I feel so much better. Like I feel like I'm just digesting better. And they don't feel bloated. Like they're not rushing through it. And so even just eating more in a mindful way has made such a difference. And I've just seen a lot of my clients, I just see, since they start in, a lot of them are not 100% plant-based to begin with. So as they're increasing the amount of plant-based meals into their regimen, it starts to become a lifestyle. And I just see that their energy levels enhanced. They said that, like, some of them, especially some moms, especially when your kids are going to school, I feel like they can get so many different germs and things and then bring them home, and then sometimes moms can just get sick right away. And one thing I've noticed too as a mom, I don't get sick. And my son too, like, it's amazing. Like, your immune system, it really builds resilience this way, in such a way where you'll rarely get a cold or anything, which is wonderful. Like, just to feel your best as often as possible. So yeah, the energy levels is like the first thing I'll notice. And then, like, some of them have lost a lot of weight, especially the more long-term clients that are here. Sometimes they're here for months. Like, there's some that have been here since June. It's since June already. So yeah, they've lost weight, and one of them is like, wow, I'm the same weight that I was in high school. And I am too, actually. I wear the same, I don't have all the same clothes from high school, but I mean, I could wear the same clothes that I had then. And I don't know, I feel like that's where the body's meant to be. Like, it's, it's not meant to increase so much. So
yeah, it's kind of interesting. We sort of have this, like, I don't know, idea in our minds that we're meant to just kind of like get chubby over time. And yeah, I think, like, everyone's body is obviously very different, and people kind of hit puberty at different times and kind of like land in, this ideal weight at kind of, different times between like high school and I think maybe like mid-20s and that type of thing, depending on gender and all that stuff. But yeah, I feel like this idea that, like, oh, it's just normal for you to like put on weight over the years is kind of a bit of a strange one. And obviously we're going to have fluctuations with metabolism and for women if you decide to have children and that type of thing. But I feel like our body is always trying to get back to homeostasis, like you said earlier. And I think that our diet and our lifestyle is really huge with this. And it's so interesting to me because we're living in this very strange time with this pandemic where, people are getting really eager to get like vaccines and stuff, and say what you will about that. But I'm sort of like, well, what if we just make sure that we're eating right and taking care of ourselves and sleeping properly? And like, if we were all healthy, I feel like it wouldn't be such a concern. Like, we wouldn't be in such a rush to get a vaccine. And maybe that's a really controversial, weird thing to say, but I just feel like this focus on health and wellness, like, we're just not focusing on it. It's such a strange disconnect to me. Like, we live in this body and yet we don't take care of it.
That's true. Yes, that reminds me, right when COVID started, I was on this virtual GI conference with gastroenterologists from around the world. And that's one thing they were talking about, just how in a lot of places around the world, we're not focused on, okay, well, what can we do in terms of wellness and in food, and how do we use food as medicine just on a daily basis to help protect us and just enhance our immunity, just to build that resilience, like use plants in a powerful way. And I remember one of the countries that did that was India. Like on their government website, they actually gave everybody a recipe, like recipes on just different teas and elixirs that they could drink with like turmeric and cardamom and just different adaptogens. And like it was on their main government website. And I love that. I'm like, wow, that's so great. Like they're actually talking about how to use plants as medicine and educating. And I love what they were doing. It's really all about education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's really interesting. And just, I wanted to touch on quickly what you were talking about with like the lunchtime. And I really love that that's a tradition in St. Bart's. And it's interesting. I guess I've worked from home for so long in Canada now that I feel like my lunch breaks are kind of all over the place, which I know is not super ideal. But being down in Mexico, I feel like there's a very strong like lunchtime culture, and it's quite a bit later than I'm used to eating. So my husband and I usually joke that we eat at like gringo lunchtime and not at like Mexican lunchtime, because they don't really eat lunch until like 2, sometimes 3 p.m. And it's great because we can go eat at like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and we miss like all the crowds. Plus it's just like a better time for lunchtime because we, eat breakfast earlier and stuff like that. But it is very much like if I'm working at a co-working space or something, I'll see like everyone get up and leave and they go to like their taco stand or they go to the restaurant and they enjoy lunch. And lunch is often like quite a long experience. And then they just come back to work for a couple hours after that. And it's something about the culture that I really appreciate being here is just they take meal times like very seriously in a way that I feel like sometimes I'm in my like regular hustle and bustle and I'm just like, oh, I'll just eat in front of the computer, or I'll just check some emails while I eat, and I'll just throw Netflix on while I eat. And it distracts you from your actual like time of nourishing yourself, which is, it's interesting that we have, I guess in the West, like such a culture of just like TV dinners and eating in front of the TV, eating in front of the computer, just take lunch at your computer, that type of thing.
Yes. It's almost like we're trying to have company with something virtual in a way. And instead of thinking about maybe just if you're able to go outside or even sit by a window where you can see outside, instead thinking of it in a way of, oh, wow, I'm having a connection here with nature. Like I'm eating and then I'm connecting, because nature, it's not just a wall. It's alive. Like, this is life. So you are connecting. So yeah, I like to think of it that way, like just finding a space either outside or where you can see, and then, enjoying the food, and then you're in the company of nature.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love that. If you're able to have your food near a window or outside, I think that's really great. It's also one of the things I like about not being in my home country of Canada, because it's cold so often. Like when I'm here in Mexico, for example, I get to eat a lot of my meals out on patios or outside and that type of thing, which I really love. I feel like it's just nice to have fresh air in general and to be able to take meals outside. So yes, totally on board with that. One thing I do want to chat about, Kristine, is just a little bit about the business that you've created. I know you've got Plant-Based Daily and then Kristine's Beauty Lab. Can you tell me a little bit about what inspired you to create those and then what you do with those businesses?
Yes. So I created Plant-Based Daily when I first moved to St. Bart, and I just discovered that there weren't a lot of plant-based options. And so I created that just to start educating locals about plant-based food. There used to be an organic market before we had Hurricane Irma. Unfortunately, it got destroyed. But before Irma, we had this beautiful organic market, and it was nice being there in the mornings and just talking to locals about plant-based food and even having them try things if they were curious about it. And that was really helpful. And then after cooking, like preparing plant-based meals for the market, I started to just get clients that way, mostly by word of mouth, and just like they were just like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Like, what if we had you do dinner too? And so yeah, I just started to work with them on an individual basis at that level. So that was about, maybe 6-7 years ago when we first came to the island. And since then, yes, it's just really been about education, just educating also visitors that come here, because a lot of tourists, they'll come here. A lot of them are now coming here for wellness. There's obviously a sector that's more into, the parties and other things for New Year's, but then I'm seeing a huge increase of visitors coming really just to have their own private retreats, like their own personalized wellness retreats, if you will. So that's been nice. Some of the hotels have been open to also hosting wellness retreats. So I've just been educating their restaurant kitchen, their executive chef and kitchen team as well, and plant-based cuisine. There's been a couple hotels so far that have really expressed a lot of interest in that. And now I'm starting to see a lot of plant-based dishes on menus at restaurants and hotels here. So it's really starting to, it's just becoming a nice trend here, which is exciting to see. And with the Kristine's Beauty Lab, that started just to create a community. So like leading cacao ceremonies here on the beach, just to educate guests and locals about adaptogens, tonics, and then they would, taste their cacao and have music. And then I do like these retreats for moms, like different moms groups, where they'll have like some matcha lattes and with some adaptogens, and we'll do yoga together. Like I'll have different wellness books out, and we'll do journaling. So we'll focus on beauty as well, like different beauty rituals, like dry brushing. My friend Jasmine and I are getting together tomorrow to do an Instagram live about using the like jade facial rollers and the gua sha, this jade stone, also for just massaging the different meridians, different points within your face. And then, also just applying different beauty techniques as well, and using plants even for skincare. There's a great book called Skin Cleanse that I like to refer to for, just creating your own masks at home. And also just in travel is like facial acupuncture, just taking different traditions and just educating people about that, cupping to relieve muscle tension. I used to carry my son on long hikes until he was maybe 40 pounds, and then a little too heavy for my size. And then, so the cupping would be helpful, or just after long flights. I'll like share travel and wellness tips mostly on Instagram on how like you can do a nice long flight without eating at the airport. Cause I can't imagine trying to eat airplane or flight food or any of the airport food. Maybe unless
it's not good as a
no.
What's the word for when you eat a carnivore? I eat meat and it's like still not very good. We usually pack like a solid amount of snacks for us. But actually, do you know what's really interesting is my husband and I always pack snacks just because 1, airport food is not good. 2, it's really expensive. But we packed like this prepackaged guacamole. It wasn't even like homemade or anything. And they actually took it away from us and said it was a liquid.
Oh no.
And I was like, I'm sorry, but that's like, guacamole is not a liquid. This is not. I was like, can I just stand here and eat it? And the guy's like, no, you have to go through.
I think I was able to get away with chia pudding, but that's not normal. Like I told him it was for my toddler, which is true. He loves chia pudding, but I was surprised that one went through. But now I just bring the chia seeds with me, or I'll bring like different green powders like spirulina, chlorella, or the chlorella tablets, or just different things. But the green powders I feel like sustain me on long flights, or the teas, for Sigmatic, for example, they make nice teas with like reishi and turmeric latte type teas with like coconut in it, and you can just put that in. You just ask for hot water, and then so I'll just drink that on the whole flight, and that helps tremendously. Or I'll just have a small little bottle of like rose water to spray on the face, just because it's so easy to get dehydrated on the airplane. So yes, I'll share a lot of these tips on Instagram story, for example, or I'll be doing more on YouTube too, because I feel like a lot of people use that as well as a resource. So
yeah, that's all really awesome. And I love that you're sharing that type of stuff. I actually follow a vegan foodie, and she does like recipes and stuff. And she was talking about similar stuff to what you're talking about. I think she got like oatmeal taken away one time, or maybe it was chia seed pudding. And now she's like kind of brings this like the dry ingredients with her. And then she can usually find like the wet ingredients she needs once she's through security. Like, there's a Starbucks in almost every major airport, and they always have like plant-based milks, or you can just get hot water from any cafe for things like oatmeal, or, what you're talking about with like the tonics and stuff. I know I've done like plant-based, like bulletproof matchas and stuff before flights, where I just put like the matcha and the a scoop of coconut butter or something like that. And then I can get the hot water once I'm through security. So there's definitely ways to do that. And I'm glad that you're sharing more of that, because I think that it is really hard. Like as you kind of delve into the world of eating a little bit better, you realize that, okay, sure, it's like easy when you're at home, but then it becomes harder when you're traveling, or you're out for dinner, or you're at friends' places. And I think that's where people can use a lot of support and that type of thing. So very grateful that you're sharing all of that.
Thank you. Yes. So the purse has all the dried goods in it.
Yes, I love it. I feel like I would love to see everything that's in your purse. I feel like it's probably got some good stuff in there. Kristine, I've loved this conversation and everything you've shared today. I'm curious if you can share where people can go to find you, if they want to check out some of your resources and all the goodness that you're up to.
Thank you. The best way to find me is Instagram on plant-based daily. So think about having plant-based daily. So plant-based daily on Instagram as well.
So plant-based daily and Kristine's Beauty Lab.
Yes. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation today. It's been really wonderful getting to chat with you.
Thank you. I had a wonderful time with you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Matcha Mornings. To find links mentioned in this episode, show notes, photos, and more, head on over to wanderbarn.com/podcast/matcha-mornings. To be the first to know about brand new episodes of Matcha Mornings, subscribe on your podcast app. If you enjoyed this episode of the show, please leave a review or send me an email at wanderbarn@gmail.com with the subject line Matcha Mornings. To follow along with me, Amanda Kingsmith, you can find me on Instagram at Amanda Kingsmith to learn more about other fun projects I'm working on. To find more great podcasts like this one on topics such as travel, the business of yoga, cryptocurrency, and more, head on over to wanderbarn.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.